Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man Bryce Ward. Bryce, what is new with you?
Uh, Nothing new. Nothing new in my life. Nothing going on. Just waiting for the NBA season, I think like everybody.
Hey, we have the World Cup going on right now, the World Championship, so the FIBA World, whatever the fuck they want to call it right now. We got that going on right now. Um,
hmm
Team USA won their first official game yesterday. I watched it. I can't tell you who they played against. I can't remember, but I watched it. They got down by 10 early. I was like, oh, this is how it's going to go. And then they actually roared back. And one of your Orlando Magic players, Paolo, had a great game. So 21 points, only missed 2 shots, made 2 threes. How do you think about Paolo's strong performance yesterday?
A little surprised that he was able to with the minutes and everything that he's gotten up till this point, not being a major factor, not being playing the starters times. And so I really didn't know if we were going to see Paolo on the court long enough to put together a line like this. But based on how many games I watched of him last year, that stat line doesn't surprise me at all. It might surprise people that didn't watch Paolo, but that's not outside the realm of what was almost pretty much normal when you watch him play. I think he's had a bit of a learning curve since he's been on Team USA because they've asked him to do things that he really hasn't had to do before. But he's an incredibly smart and adaptive player with his size and his athleticism. Um, I thought center, which is what Steve Kerr's had him playing since he's been there. I thought that was a bit of a stretch for him and something he hasn't really had to do before. So I didn't know if this time with Team USA would be like a standout. I just didn't think this stat line with his minutes and who else was on the team was I didn't know if he would be able to do this in that time frame. But like I said, if you've watched Paolo for more than a couple games and you knew what he did last year, it's really not super surprising. I'm just glad he was able to do it on Team USA in front of the whole world, though, because that's the kind of attention Paolo deserves. With the attention Chet got, with the attention Wembanyama's getting, the reigning Rookie of the Year deserves it, and he is that good. He is that good. So the stat line doesn't surprise me. I'm just glad that everybody else got to see it. And like I said, based on his what he's already done on Team USA, I wasn't sure if we were going to get to see this kind of performance out of him. So I'm glad everybody got to see it, and I'm glad Team USA got the win. Of course, that's the most important thing.
So, because of the internet, the magic of the internet, Team USA played New Zealand yesterday. Forgive me, New Zealand. I forgot. It was early in the morning here. The game was at 8:30. And Bryce, forgive me because I almost texted you and told you the game was on, but I know you were working. So, shenanigans, of course. No disrespect to another country, but I'm going to show you something in a second because I kind of like it low key when other countries do shit like this because it gets them fired up. I mean, it doesn't matter as far as wins or losses, but I just have to show you this. This is great. This is fantastic. Oh yeah, we gotta watch it. Gotta watch it.
I'm just going to turn it over to the Tall Blacks.
Say we gotta turn it over to the Tall Blacks. They're like, what the fuck is this?
I'm sure they've seen it before. Maybe just not in person. Bobby Portis Jr. looked a little scared.
I don't think he looked scared. He just all stone face. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, because that guy said, I think he said something about tall blacks. So,
So here's the haka. I'm just going to turn it over to the Tall Blacks.
that's exactly what he said.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. And we've gone
That's
off
a
the.
bit of extra that I was not expecting to hear.
We have gone off the rails, folks. Wow. Nothing racist, but it's just funny the way it.
I'm sure they're referring to the height in their jerseys.
This is hilarious. All right, so yeah, Paulo had a great showing. Anthony Edwards ended up with 14 points, I believe. And Austin Reeves had 12 points as well. So no, they did pretty good. They did pretty good. But Paulo was the standout coming off of the bench yesterday. So
You said you watched the game?
I did.
What was it necessarily that kept Paolo in the game? Because, like I said, I was working, or like you said, I was working. But like, did they? Because I think he's had problems with teams that really had bigger men at center. Was it just easier for him to match up against the New Zealand team than other teams?
It was more time because Jaren Jackson Jr. was in foul trouble and falling all over the place. So it was more time because everyone was playing like a physical style yesterday. So it was a lot of fouls yesterday. So that's more of what it was, but it still gave the kid time to shine. So absolutely. So moving right along, we do have a brief update of something that we talked about last week. And ironically, like a day later, the NBA decided to fine one James Harden for his comments where he called out Daryl Morey, called him a liar. So let me pull up that statement. Here we go. So the NBA announced today that Philadelphia 76ers guard James Harden has been fined $100,000 by the NBA for public comments on August 14th and 17th, indicating that he would not perform the services called under his player contract unless traded to another team. The league's investigation, which included an interview of Harden, confirmed that these comments were reference to Harden's belief that the 76ers would not accommodate his request to be traded. So, after this, the National Basketball Players Association came out and dropped a statement saying that they stand with James Harden. Of course, that's what they get paid for. That's their job. So let's read theirs too, so we can have both sides of it. We respectfully disagree with the league's decision to discipline James Harden for recent comments he made, which we believe do not violate the rule against public trade demands. We intend to file a grievance and have the matter heard by our arbitrator. So they're going to try to fight this $100,000 fine. So I actually think we're on two different sides of the coin on this. So I'm going to throw it to you. What do you think about the fine and then the battle that's going to ensue over this $100,000?
It just the chaos that James Harden creates. It just doesn't. None of it surprises me at all. It's never like some smooth thing with him. He's a little more public. I get the NBA trying to find him, and I get the NBA, the Players Association, defending him. Basically, like I get why James Harden is upset in this situation. Yeah, by all accounts, it seems like he was promised something, and he didn't get what was promised. I understand that. That would be upsetting for anybody, especially that amount of money that you're talking about losing. But it's hard for me to feel bad for James Harden when it feels like he's dug his own grave. Like he's here he's there because of his own decisions, and now he's not getting what he's promised. Well, what about every other team he's ever left? What kind of promises did he make before? I'm not saying he's necessarily wrong. I'm just saying, like, I don't necessarily feel bad for him in this situation because he's almost like left a wake of teams behind him before. And so, but with that said, it's its own situation. I get how the Players Association has to defend him and has to stick up for his side of the story, that basically saying like he hasn't really done anything wrong technically. And it's just, the team and the president and the NBA aren't excited about how he's being public about it in the comments he's making. So like I said, I understand completely both sides. Since it's centered around James Harden, to me it's not surprising. But I get both sides. I get both sides of the story because they're basically, I think, having to do their job. Um, they might be trying to make more of an example out of Harden because he does have a track record of garnering attention with these kind of things, these decisions. So if this was like the first time James Harden has had some wild attention around him, then I would probably be a little more sympathetic to what he's said has happened. But at the same time, I just don't care as much because he's I kind of like see him as a clown of sorts. And so when the clown puts on a show, I don't really get too upset either way. I just kind of watch the show.
You
So
disrespectful little shit calling James Harden a clown.
a bearded clown.
Disrespectful little shit. So I'm actually pro James Harden in this situation. And I am shocked. And let me say this, I am shocked because this version of the Players Association is not the version that I grew up with. So I am shocked that they actually had the balls to come out and say something as swiftly as they did to challenge the NBA's ruling, because that's what I'm used to. I'm not used to this little shit they have going on right now. So kudos to them for stepping up to the plate as quickly as they did for James Harden. What's the point of having a union if you're not going to use it? So, yeah, they need to protect their players. Handshake deals have gone on in the NBA. Handshake deals have gone on in professional sports for years. I still believe there is a handshake deal by the Sixers with James Harden. That said, if you take a pay cut this year, we're going to load you up next year. And that didn't happen. And it pissed him off. And that's why he requested the trade. He wants to go to the Clippers. Kawhi is on board with it. Paul George is on board with it. Do we know how that's going to work? No. Could it be the most spectacular failure in the history of sports like the Nets was? Yes. Yes. And we used that for a year to get great content from. So, yes. Do we need another shit show? Maybe yes. But the fact remains that I believe James Harden when he says it was a lie. Now, here's the only difference. If the owner said, no, you're not going to give him this money, then Daryl Morey cannot give him that money. So it could have been a situation like that where Morey wanted to do it, and then the new owner stepped in and was like, nah, B, we ain't doing it like that. So that's the only gray area that could have been, but I'm happy that the Players Association stepped up so quickly to pretty much say that they support James Harden. And of course, as far as an example, this gives the other players a blueprint thing on how to get things done. So yeah.
or how not to get things done.
Hey Dave, what's up?
The interesting thing is about the Clippers trade is based on their injury track record, there's a good chance Harden, if he goes there, will be their star player of the playoffs because he'll be the only one playing. Maybe. Maybe, if he's still there.
Good shot. I like it. Good shot. So we had something else, some other shit. This was a good week. We had some other shit that happened this week. And we're going to go a little deep into this. So a couple of years ago now, about a year and a half ago, when the Warriors won their last championship, me and you talked, and I said, we have to revisit this top 10, and we have to consider Stephen Curry as a member of the top 10 players in the NBA. And if that happens, who would come off? And I said then I would take Magic off. I said that then. So we're going to play this little clip here. You two gods, don't strike us down today. All right, we're going to play this little clip here of Stephen Curry. Let's see.
Yes. I have to, yes. It's me and Magic. That's the conversation.
Yeah. Like it just, because as we can look at stats all day, right? We can look at stats and try to judge. I wasn't around with Magic. I know, right? So
I have so much respect.
I know there's not a lot of 6'9" point guard. No one's trying to. I'm thinking about the '90s growing up. There was nobody trying to be a 6'9" point guard, right? I mean, it just. But I can witness and watch every kid trying to be Curry. You know what I mean? So it's like the influence that you really have on the game from the position as a player. I look at the stats and say, okay, Magic then Curry. When I look at the kids and I watch AAU, it's like, nah.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously I have to answer it that way, but I really feel like, to your point, like Magic's resume is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, all right, so the fact that we're even having that conversation it's a place I never thought I'd be in. But the fact that, to your point of like how you grade it and the whole conversation, that's why we have the conversations, because it's fun and it's measuring errors against each other. And I love that's what basketball, that's what sports is all about. That's why people watch. That's why people get in heated debates about it. I love it. So you put me on my own team, I'm gonna rep myself for sure.
All right, so. That was Stephen Curry kind of responding to the slight backlash for people want to talk about him when he said he was the greatest point guard in the history of the NBA. This is what I will say, because I don't think you've ever seen Magic Johnson play live. So I saw Magic Johnson play the last couple of years of his career, and I was looking for something spectacular. He was heavier. He was a little slower. Of course, this was after his HIV diagnosis. But I enjoyed watching him play when I could catch the Lakers games on TV. This was before the league pass. But I didn't get to see Magic in his heyday with the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers. I'll say that. I never saw any of the championship runs outside of a few clips of the 1991 series, because people forget this. Michael Jordan's first championship came at the expense of Magic Johnson. People forget that, but that was the matchup in the 91 finals. So it's kind of like a passing of the torch. With that said, with what Gilbert Arenas just said, I think that Stephen Curry is the most influential NBA player of our time. And this is why I say that. You have people, youngins, who wanted to be like Kobe. You have people who loved and respected LeBron James. But when I go to these basketball courts, I see youngins who want to be like Stephen Curry. The way he dresses, the way he walks, the way he shoots. It is ridiculous. And I think it's because if you look at him, he just looks like the everyday person. He doesn't look like this monster superstar athlete like Michael, like LeBron, like Kobe. He's more relatable to people. So a kid who probably knows, hey, I'm never going to make it to the league, but he can see Steph and be like, hey, I look like this guy. I think that's why people relate to Steph. Plus, he is one of the most humble superstars I've ever seen. Extremely humble, and people like that too. So my question is, how influential, this is deep, how influential do you think Stephen Curry's game has been on the youth that's coming up on the NBA? And then we'll revisit kind of the top 10 discussion.
So the important word there is influential. Not to me, if we're having this conversation specifically, it's not greatest on whatever list or greatest point guard. If we're talking about influence alone, in my lifetime, I can only think of one other player that had almost a similar influence on the game, and that was AI. Because everybody wanted to play like AI. I think what it is, too, is the smaller guy's game is more approachable to the average Joe, like you were saying. You can't do what Shaq does because you're not a freak of nature. You can't do what LeBron James does all the time. You can learn his techniques, but you can't play his style because you're not a freak of nature. Magic Johnson is similar. Like Gilbert said, there wasn't any 6'9" point guards. Some of it has to do with using their size mixed with their incredible ability to do what they did. Like in my eyes, I could say, to me, Shaq might have been the most dominant player that's ever played the game, because no one can do what he does because of his size. So in terms of influence, I can 100% get behind what Steph Curry has done for the game, and I could see him easily as maybe the most. I don't know if you could even say Jordan. I think you could put Jordan ahead of him, because it seemed like Jordan influenced everybody around the world to play. It's almost like put a bigger spotlight on the NBA for a while. But in terms of what we have now, what we've had for a long time, I don't think you could argue that there is a more influential player than Steph Curry on like the general population and the kids growing up today, because his game is so adaptable. And also, though, not just the players, the league has transformed into a league that highlights that play, that highlights the three-pointer, that highlights the style that Curry has mastered. It's almost like the teams in the NBA have molded their current rosters around the idea of playing in a league with more Steph Currys. Like the way the 3-point shot is highlighted now, I feel like that was ushered because of Steph Curry's play. So not only did he influence just the everyday player, but I also think he influenced the way teams are built and in the way the offenses are played and ran in the NBA and everywhere. It seems like college kind of does its own thing sometimes. It's weird, but like in AAU and in the NBA, it seems like his influence is almost immeasurable in how he's changed the game. So yeah, I think it's very easy to acknowledge Steph Curry as the most influential player of our generation easily.
And you know, the crazy thing about that is, and this is no shot, he did this while battling LeBron and their careers intersecting so many times. Like, because usually you have only one time frame where you have players like this, but we actually have two players like this going at it with completely different styles, and they've actually matched up in the finals. We never saw Michael and LeBron in the finals. We never saw LeBron and Kobe in the finals. We didn't see that. We did see Steph and LeBron in the finals a few times, right? And Steph did get the better of him. And it's just like, we have to have this conversation. Even from a championship standpoint, LeBron has 4, Steph has 4. LeBron James, and I've said this 1,000 times, I'm going to say it again. LeBron James is the greatest statistical player we've ever seen in the NBA, and he's not done yet. He has at least 2 more years. He is that. Unquestionably that. But if he's in the top 10 based on that, I do believe 4 championships and influence has to put Stephen Curry in the top 10. And if, like I said, and this is no disrespect to Magic Johnson, none whatsoever. Great player, helped the league get on the map with Larry Bird. That was it. And we know why. White, black, we know why. It happened. The league benefited from it. Then Michael grabbed the torch and took it to the next level. But it started with Larry Bird. It started with Magic Johnson, and then slightly with Dr. J, and then Michael took it and the league blew up. They saved the NBA. Right or wrong, for whatever reason, they saved the NBA. But man, these kids, man, they love Steph Curry. They love Steph Curry. And it's just like you said, with Allen Iverson, it's similar. Personalities are different, but the impact is the same. And that's deep. It's deep on so many levels. So my question for you is, are you comfortable with putting Stephen Curry in the top 10?
I am, but we'd have to go over the list in detail for me to feel comfortable taking Magic off the list.
So here are the shoe-ins. And this is off the top of my head. So if I miscount, forgive me. The shoe-ins are Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. That's 5. Those are the shoe-ins. Now I would look into, okay, does Jerry West get on there? I don't know. Kobe's on there. That's 6.
Mhm.
And of course, this is all relative. Hakeem Olajuwon, 7. I'm thinking, forgive me. I would put Jerry West at 8. Not in any order, but he's just an 8 slot. Wow. I'm stuck at 8. So Stephen Curry would be 9, and I would have to dig deep to see who the other player would be. So it could be Magic Johnson, or just because the era I grew up in, Shaquille O'Neal. And I would actually put Shaq above Magic. So yeah, I would take Magic off. Crazy, right?
But yeah, it's like you said, it's all relative. It's kind of like opinion, because I'm sure there's some lists that maybe some of these guys, like 1 or 2, would be different. And so I'm sure for a lot of people, like 75, 80% of the list will be similar. And then like the last 3, 4 might be a little different for a lot of people. But it's probably going to be pretty close to that. There'll be a few. Shaq might not make everybody's list kind of thing, in terms of, not that he doesn't deserve it, but just it's tough to put everybody on there. I mean, you could make an argument, right, for Tim Duncan.
Okay.
I mean, there's arguments to be made for people. I think some of it'll just be a generational thing, where if you got to see some of these older guys play, it's going to be really hard to bump them off the list, kind of thing. It just seems crazy to take Magic off that list. But see, I don't know enough, right, like, about everything Jerry West did, say, for example, right? Like, it's just, I just didn't see it. You know,
Right.
Magic and Bird come with their own lore. Hakeem, these bigger than life players, and I'm not even saying Jerry West isn't that. I'm just saying I've been exposed to him maybe the least. So it's just like I'm just kind of more unaware. But with that being said, there's so many options in the top 10. It's really hard to be like certain. Like I said, I'm sure everybody's list is just a little different, but all those guys deserve to be in the conversation. It's just you can't ignore Steph knocking on that door with everything he's done. It's just hard for me to get my head around knocking Magic off that list, just because of everything he, like, just like I said, the attitude and the bigger than life persona. is it's like intoxicating. Like that guy. Like you see old interviews and things like that, and it's just the whole package. That guy's a special human being, even outside the NBA. So it's just hard for me to get my head around knocking him off the top 10 list. But I mean, I get it.
It's tough. It is really.
It's a tough argument. I mean, it's just a tough. If you're making that list, you're sitting there writing it down. If you're looking there at the last like few spots, you're just like, it could go to a few different guys.
Yeah, I mean, Larry Bird could even creep up on the list if you think about it. But I think Jerry West is the fucking logo.
Which people have thought about trying to change.
People, not the NBA. I don't think they're ever changing, but yeah, people, yeah. Hold on 1 second.
If they change the logo, what would you like to see it as?
No, it would have to be Michael if they change the logo. It would absolutely have to be Michael.
They just changed the Jordan logo to the NBA logo, the Jumpman.
Yeah, it would have to be Michael. It just makes sense that it is Michael. 1 second. I found a ESPN top 10 list from, I believe, last year. So let's see how they broke it down. Okay. Think this is accurate. All right. So there we go. We have ranking the top 74 NBA players all time, 10 through 1. I don't know why they don't have 75. This is actually from 2020, so there's more than likely a more updated list. So they have Shaq at 10, Kobe at 9, Tim Duncan, there you go, Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, Magic, Bill Russell, Kareem, LeBron James, and then Michael. God, that's great. Three defenders. That's fucking great.
I think that it sums up what they tried to do and how they couldn't stop him. I think if I had to knock one person off that list, I think I feel slightly more comfortable knocking. It all feels bad knocking someone off that list for Curry. If I had to, if I went with one, then I don't even think it's the right decision. I can't. I'm having a hard time with it. Is maybe knocking Bird off that list.
Mm-hmm.
I'm nostalgic though, even for like I hate seeing the old guard ushered out, even if I haven't seen them for the new, if that makes sense.
Well, that's why when they did the top 75, but they had a provision in there, hey, so one of the top 50 could be knocked out. They didn't do it. And I don't think they will do it going forward. So God willing, if we're around for the top 100 players, which will be in another 23 years, God, we'll be doing a podcast too.
We'll have to at least do one episode for that.
Dude, I'll be in the nursing home doing a podcast at the rate I'm going. But dude, I'm gonna be in my 60s. Get the fuck out of here. But I don't believe they'll ever replace any of those guys as far as the top all-time players. But those guys can shuffle a little bit when you're talking about lists. But again, those lists are all relative. But I am a strong proponent of Stephen Curry being put in the top 10 because we all know my Drew Holiday blunder. Hey, Drew, I love you. We all know about that. But the biggest mistake I've ever made in the history of me covering basketball was saying that Stephen Curry would not make it to the NBA.
You weren't alone in that. There were reports and scouts that kind of leaned the same way. Not all of them, I don't think, but there were definitely some.
I have to swallow that one and take it to my grave because I own it. I said it. I own it. And I'm so happy that he proved me wrong because I love watching that kid play. I absolutely love it.
The first couple of seasons, you probably thought you were right because he couldn't even stay healthy.
I did. But one thing about Stephen Curry, he said this, and we're going to end it with this. I've heard him say this, and I think this has helped him in his career. He's a great guy, on and off the court. Whatever goes on with him and his wife goes on with him and his wife because we know they sorry they have an open relationship. Sorry, I'm just gonna say it. But Stephen Curry said he is petty as fuck. I've heard him say that, and I think that really helps him in his career because he's so petty, but he does it low key, which I love about him. But I definitely will put Stephen Curry in my top 10. At this point, that last championship solidified it for me. Yeah, and just like I said, just being on the courts and seeing and hearing these youngins out there is something else. So that's going to be it for this week's episode of the Hardwood Nation podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share our content. Comment below. Tell us that you love us. Tell us that you hate us. Everyone be safe. We are out.